I think we just grew up with it being a normal part of life. My grandfather was a pandit actually in Varanasi. I'd love to say that I came up with these thoughts and it make me sound very cool, but it's actually not the truth. It's actually not the truth. It's because my grandfather had read many of the scriptures, our ancient scriptures, and both my parents are also deeply religious. So we learned this as a part of our traditions, that equality between men and women is not a modern westernized concept. It's actually an ancient Indian concept. And things that are not taught to us in the Indian education system. So, for example, the oldest Indian scripture is the Rig Veda, which has been written by rishis, the equivalent of prophets and messiahs of Western religions. What many don't know is that the Rig Veda is hymns written by rishikas as well, not just rishis, women rishis. We had the equivalent of women prophets and messiahs, not just goddesses. Women prophets and messiahs who've written the hymns which are there in the Rig Veda. And among the things I've said in interviews in India often to idiots who say that women should not read the scriptures at certain times of month, they wrote the scriptures 7,000 years ago. Right? We were that liberal. We had women who used to rule in their own name in India. Rani Prabhavati Gupta, 2,500 years ago, she ruled in her own name. Wasn't like the wife of the king. Rani Rudrama Devi, for example, some 800 years ago, used to lead her army into battle. So the stuff that I wrote in my books of women being prime ministers and doctors and
warriors,
it was a part of the normal play. The Chola Empire, for example, in the south, they had a women's regiment. The bodyguards of the king were women.
I'm sure that even today, when I look at an individual, the training that I've been given through spirituality is not to see externals, but to see the light that's shining here. And when I see a person in that way, there's a very different relationship with them in which there are no barriers. And so otherwise, male, female, Indian, British, black, white, brown, all of those are boxes, compartments that you slot people into, and you approach them with a mindset that's very fixed. At least that's the usual trend. And yet this training of seeing the light that's shining inside and connecting with that human being as that being is the perfect step of evolution, where you're able to relate to every human being according to the being that they are, and not just the physical form.
We talk about educating girls and making girls stand on their own 2 feet, but also how are we raising our sons and what are we teaching our sons? And as Amish pointed out, women in India are so successful and are in all walks of life and fields. However, abuse has never been more rife, or possibly now we are talking about it a lot more. And so, how much do men need to be able to we need to move men along with us. We need to keep them on track, and the conversation has to involve them. It can't just be women charging forward. The men need to understand, it can't be a power struggle.